Hey everybody, this is Casey Currie. We are on episode 13. It has been a long time since we have been doing any podcast. Life has been crazy. We have a lot to cover. In episode 13, we are going to focus on Dakar. I feel that it's a big topic, and we had a lot of success there. And man, I want to give up the time to explain all that we can. I got Aaron with me and Kyle, who both actually were in Saudi with I and Sean during the race. But really, what I want to do is just take this time to explain all the stories and really kind of just vent a little bit about Dakar. But we will get into more stuff. We also raced the Ball 1000. We've done a lot of other trips and had some epic journeys in the meantime. But right now we're dealing with the coronavirus. It's tough, but we're at home. We're being safe. But yeah, we're gonna get into Dakar. So 2020 Dakar, we won. We did everything we went there to do, and had a blast. We had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and it's truly the hardest race that I've ever participated in. I've raced all over the world. I've won in a lot of different categories, and to me, there's nothing as challenging. The emotions that you go through, man, as a driver, as an influencer, as just a human being, man, I've never been put in those situations. Obviously, Kyle, staying in the RV with me the last 2 days or 3 days was pretty wild on my part. Like now, obviously trying to think of all the recap, but
Well, you actually got a pre-run Saudi, basically,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Before, early December, you took a trip over to Saudi, and tell us about that.
So basically, we got invited over by the government to come over and check out Saudi, and really just be an ambassador and make sure that it's going to be fun for us, and also they wanted to show that Saudi's not a bad place, and it was amazing. We went over there.
How long were you there for?
We were there for 5 days.
Yeah, 5 days.
So for me, I got to fly business class, first time ever. Oof, that was super, super nice. So
How long of a flight was it?
17 hours, and it was direct. We got to fly direct. It was pretty sick. And then we got there. We flew into Jeddah, and we got treated like kings. It was pretty amazing. Even Kyle got treated like a king.
Yeah, we showed up to a giant cake with Casey's face on it.
Yeah.
Straight off the bat from the hotel. We were like, okay, this might be nice.
Yeah, the hotel over there, which the hotel name...
was it the Hilton?
It was a Hilton.
Yeah, Hilton Jeddah.
Oh, man, amazing. They treated us like kings. The hotel's phenomenal. The food is... we showed up... and first thing for me was unique is we ended up running into some people in the military, through friends of friends. We ended up hitting it off 5 minutes into being there. We found some friends of friends, and after that we became friends with them and still friends with them. But
Jeddah was the first place that you went to, which was where the race
that was started
for Dakar.
Yep, and then from there we went to Dammam.
No, we went to Riyadh next, which that was the midway point of the race.
Okay, yeah. So in Riyadh, man, it was epic. So we flew like every other day. Like it was craziest trip of our lives. We flew into Riyadh, and then we ended up getting to go to a couple festivals. Yeah. We got behind the scenes look at things.
At the Diriyah Festival.
Yeah.
What was the weather like
the weather
when
we were there in December was 70s. It was nice. No, you didn't have to wear a jacket. The weather definitely got colder from 2 weeks before till there. It definitely was getting colder. So but yeah, and then from there we went and ate at some cool places. They have a crazy thing there that in certain months of the year, 4 or 5 months out of the year, they build a complete mall festival center, ponds with fountains fountain shows, 25 restaurants,
bunch
shopping
of different
mall,
art,
and they build it up. You have full restaurants, and then they tear it down. It's only for 3 months out of the year. And
What city was that in?
Riyadh.
Riyadh, yeah.
Full blown a dirt lot built into 25 restaurants, all concrete. Fountains with shooting water and colored lights. And you go in, you park, you hang out, and they literally, this will be gone. In 2 months, it's gone. It'll be dirt lot again. They do this every single year. They rebuild it, do different restaurants, different people working there. It was pretty incredible experience.
It's kind of like your county fair, but like just to another level.
A whole nother level.
Yeah.
Which is funny because listening to you talk about it, like I don't really feel when we were there for the race, we really got to see much of Saudi.
No,
or,
we saw nothing.
I mean, obviously we saw the countryside and
Yeah,
everything,
but, yeah.
but
Not
seeing
the-
like daily life,
yeah.
being there for the race, you were just there for the race and
That's the hard
Yeah.
part.
didn't
Like
do much.
same thing with Peru. Like when you get into the race mode, it's like you're just going racing. Like you're not ever stopping for something. Like even on the rest day, like you still go to the not racetrack, but the bivouac, and you go check on everything. It's not like, all right, we're gonna go hang out.
Rest day, I thought we were gonna go see some of the city and
Yeah,
go be a tourist, and
No.
we left the hotel. We were at the bivouac all
There was
day.
some politics involved with that day. That was
Yeah.
very stressful.
But,
yeah, I mean, so then from there, we went to Dammam, which to me, the further east you go, it gets, I don't know what's the right word I'm looking for. But just the way that the religion and stuff, I guess it just gets more, there's more religion. There's more, like what they wear, their attire and stuff like that. It changes a little bit more
it
east.
gets a little bit stricter.
Yeah, I don't. That's strict's not the word, but it's more like the old school ways, I guess you
Yeah.
could say. But with that, like, we learned a lot. We got to meet the prince, that's basically in charge of Dakar. Ended up hitting it off with him. Super nice guy. And we hung out. We went and watched one of the Saudi Arabia's first rallies that they put on over there. So we went to the start, saw the starting line of that. Didn't go anywhere but like the hotel, which is the start line. But hung out for a little bit. And then from we didn't do anything there. I went to the mall and ate dinner.
Yeah,
And then
I got sick.
and then from there we flew back to Riyadh. Ended up staying in like this Hilton exclusive hotel. It's like $10,000 a night for each room, and we got put up. It was the gnarliest thing ever.
Gangster.
And then we flew home, but it was amazing. I felt way more comfortable, and I guess like going into Dakar, like having that little bit of preparation, like okay, it's gonna be cold. Like what are we gonna wear? The food, what should we eat? Like, what are we going to bring from California out there? What are we allowed to bring? They're not allowed. There's no pork allowed. There's no alcohol allowed. So like you could bring food, but you got to be careful because you don't want to do anything that's going to basically, wave a red flag. So it was good on that aspect because I feel like preparation is key. I feel like I made some mistakes going to Peru, just not being prepared. Like, obviously now I'm like turning into a mental case about racing and just making sure all the, check marks are checked. And, I think we did a lot better with that. This year I didn't ever get sick. I slept good. We had getting the motorhome situation out then. It was all good. So, but yeah, that was all obviously in the middle of those 2 weeks that we were home for Christmas and before we flew out. So, but yeah, after that, basically preparation for us, we ended up getting, once we got back from that trip from Saudi, we ended up having the team flew a race car over for 2 days. And for first day, Fox stepped up insane, basically designed and built me a set of shocks that we could try to run for Dakar. So super radical, actually called RAD shocks. It's their racing and development shocks. And man, we went out one day. We actually only went 1 day in the desert. And we didn't even drive all day. It ended up the car had a bad axle, so we couldn't go over high speeds. And the fuel cell was leaking fuel. So we ended up testing probably 3 hours out in the desert. But I felt we got the car in a very good position. Fox went back, duplicated the shocks in like a couple days.
Well, in reality too, you also, when we were in Morocco, you had tested a bunch of stuff that you implemented.
So we ran this year's Dakar. We ran the 2020 motor package, and like by the rules, you have to run the whole motor package. So it's a stock motor, but we run a restrictor, and it's tiny, so it's all in the air intake. And the restrictor, I mean, people think, oh, I got the best clutch and I got the best this. And it's like, yeah, when you take away like 50% of the horsepower and 50% of the torque, like we have to start over. There's no testing and development for a restricted motor. To me, it basically feels like our race car for Dakar is a non-turboed car. So you're taking this like insane fast car and like take the turbo off it, and that's what we're racing. So the reason that we run a restrictor is so that way any brand, any size motor, it doesn't matter as long as it fits under the 1,000 cc. If it's turbo, non-turbo, with the restrictor, you're basically getting the same amount of air. So basically it equals out the playing field. So if you think you got some radical tune or some radical engine or some high performance thing with the restrictor, it basically levels it all out.
And don't they also limit the travel too?
They don't. They got rid of that in 2020. So we were the rules were changed for 2020, so we didn't have to limit the travel. But when you're running a 30-inch whole tire on a car basically developed around a 32, the chassis hits the ground. So the restriction comes in that, you know, the worst thing you want to do is have the car smash into the ground all day long. So we did a lot of work to make sure that all the, you know, when the car's at full bump, that it's not digging in the ground and we're not, you know, taking a chance to have an A-arm hit a rock or a trailing arm hit a rock. So I feel that that's, you know, all those little things help when you're racing for 12 days of being comfortable. So we did that. And then basically once we got all that handled, we got ourselves ready for Dakar. We shipped the shocks over by airplane to Saudi straight there. And we never tested the car. That car was not our race car. It stayed in California. And then we spent Christmas at home. And on the 28th, 29th.
No, we left on the 31st.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, flew.
Oh, yeah.
We flew through New Year's. We didn't ever actually had a New
That's
Year's
right.
Day.
We flew on the 31st out of California and got to Dubai, and we had a layover in Dubai. And from the time we got a layover in Dubai to actual Saudi for the race, it was a second. We actually were never anywhere to celebrate. Like I think we were on the ground in Dubai for like 2 hours on a layover.
That was the definition of time travel right there.
Yeah, we skipped
What airline were you on?
Emirates. I think.
That's right. Emirates.
I flew on Saudi Airlines, so my
Direct.
flight didn't have even alcohol. So did yours have alcohol on it?
Yeah, Emirates does.
Yeah, I
so
don't
you
even
could at
know.
least celebrate it.
I wasn't drinking
Popped a
before the
little
car.
bottle.
No drinking for the car. So, but yeah, and then once we got there, but you know, honestly, I say before we dig in too deep, I do have Ricky Brabec ready to call in. Give me 1 minute and let me get Ricky on the phone so we can get some chitty chat going on.
Oh,
What's
hang
up,
on.
boss? It's Casey, Aaron, Quesada, and Kyle.
What's going on, boys?
What's happening?
Are we podcasting yet?
We are podcasting. So basically, dude.
Anything you say can and will be used against you on the internet.
In quarantine.
Yeah, that's what we are definitely. The coronavirus is in full effect. But basically, what we're I just wanted to recap. We're all discussing. We haven't got into depth yet of my whole Dakar experience, but you know, we wanted to bring in a Dakar champion and just get you on the podcast and give your feelings about Dakar and after Dakar with all the craziness going on.
Well, what do you mean? I think there's two champions here on the podcast at the same time, bud.
Technically, you won yours 1 hour before me. So, no. But no, we want to, dude, you know, obviously on a bike, it's gnarly. You know, you got to do all the navigation yourself. But, you know, for myself and now, like, the users, like, I mean, what did you do for yourself to get yourself ready for Dakar?
Yeah, being on a bike is definitely a little bit different. You know, obviously being in the car, you have a navigator. And also being on a bike, you know, you're out there by yourself. And then obviously in a car, there's a lot more that can happen. So having a navigator in a car is definitely a key point, and having a good navigator in a car is pretty strong. Being on the bike, something happens to us. Obviously, we're out there by ourselves and not much we can do. So what I did to prepare was, you know, just go to Jimmy Lewis's house as much as I could, ride as long as I could. You know, try to go 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And times got pretty tough. You know, there's times where I didn't really want to be around Jimmy or be working with Jimmy because I was just getting frustrated. But obviously it's paid off. You know as well. You went to Jimmy's house. Sean went to Jimmy's house. So I think training is a really important part. And I'm not going to exactly tell everyone what I did 100%, but no, I think we did our part. We went to Jimmy's house, we trained, we stayed focused, and I think most importantly, I think us, you know, being close to each other in the bivouac, you know, being a part of Monster, we just had fun every day, and I think that's a really big important part of being successful out there.
Well, for you, Ricky, like like you said, you kind of always ride throughout the year. It's not like you ever just take a break and do nothing. But when do you really start to buckle down on like, all right, how many weeks out, how many months out do you like fully just get focused?
I don't really buckle down until Morocco rally. Morocco is kind of like the last rally of the year to see where you're at. So if you go to Morocco and you don't do so good, then you obviously know where you got to, work on yourself or work on your navigation or, work on your diet or your physical training. And basically from October until the day that I would leave for the Dakar is where, my focus goes in 100% rally. I don't really worry about hanging out with anyone on the weekends or going on vacation because I know that Monday through Saturday I'm thinking about road books or dieting or physical training. So there's a lot that goes into it. And throughout the whole entire year we race. Well, normally we would be racing, but rally's a little bit different. There's only like 3 races a year that I attend. So the time down, I just ride and have fun usually until about October.
Word.
So now, as far as, like you said, the bivouac thing, that's one thing that, like, people don't understand is how, like, obviously there's a bunch of stress and people and strategy and all this other crap going on. But, like, dude, keeping it sane, like that, I would say that, dude, having you and Andrew, like just 2 Americans that have already done Dakar, had the comforts, like, obviously, dude, me being in the situation of leading was new, where you guys have already led, or you've led the rally before multiple times. Like, dude, I was losing my shit out there. I was not doing good in the middle. And
well, that was your second. Ricky, how many Dakars was 2020 for you?
That 2020 was my 5th one.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew like what to expect. And I guess like, yeah, being at your second Dakar and like leading, yeah, I would be freaking out too. Like I was freaking out when I was leading, but I was like, dude, I got to keep it together as well, because, we're leading, and when you're leading, you definitely don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
So for sure, like the nerves are pumping and like the stress is way high.
Yeah. It's definitely easier to be in second place and pushing hard to catch first than just chilling, going like, well, somebody's pushing hard somewhere and I have no idea where.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, yeah, exactly. So if you're in first, you're just trying to maintain your lead, but it's hard because like you said, you don't know where they're pushing or
Yep.
you don't know anything until later that night, basically.
Yeah. So now at Dakar, what day? I don't know if you don't really need to remember, but what type of terrain would you be like what would be the most epic terrain that you had in Dakar and Saudi?
I would say the first week, the first 5 days or the first 4 days was like the best terrain. I think it was like basically kind of like where we live, the Mojave Desert, minus the bumps.
Yeah.
Was it exciting for you guys going to Saudi? How long was it in Peru for?
10.
It was in Peru for 2 years, I think.
2 years?
Oh, yeah.
So, you'd raced that terrain before, been there, seen it. Like going to Saudi, was it pretty exciting about going and racing on terrain that no one's ever raced on? Or was that more nerve-wracking because you didn't really know what to expect?
No, I was super pumped to go to Saudi. I was super pumped to go somewhere where none of us have been because, I mean, honestly, like I really just enjoy riding my motorcycle. So if I can have fun riding my motorcycle and get to go to all these cool places and countries and race, it's even better. But I was more stoked for the fact that no one's been there and we were all kind of going blind. And, obviously, like growing up out here and racing, like even for Casey, like most of our racing out here is reading terrain. And, out there in like South America where it was like the past 10 years, like the road books were all the same and it was basically like pre-running every single year. And people were going out there and like sneaking around and, trying to, get a glimpse of the course from some information. And I think being in Saudi Arabia, we all went there with the same knowledge. And I think reading terrain and obviously like the rocks and the fast stuff is where like Casey and I definitely excelled. So
yeah, I feel the same, dude. I think That's what people don't realize, that no pre-running, no, like, there's people that once, not Saudi so much because it's a newer country to even go to, but like down in Peru, there's like multiple rallies throughout the year that are going on the exact same set of sand dunes that we already basically are. Well, for me, I went down there in October for that Inca challenge, and then we ended up racing on the exact same sand dunes for 4 days.
Yeah, exactly. Just like maybe a different direction or something.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I had talked to a couple of different drivers and riders and asked them. So a big change, I guess, this year was that they were giving you your road book. They used to give it to you, the night before?
Yeah.
Right when you finish the day before.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So you had
the whole
a lot of time to kind of look, and your team had time to look at the road book and kind of figure out what the next day is going to look like. So this year on over half of the days, you got your road book like 15 minutes before you went off. What was your take on that? Did you like it? Did you think it helped you? Was it a pain? Like, what were your thoughts on that one?
I think getting the road book in the morning or like 20 minutes before the special started, I think that was definitely way better, because now we get more rest in the evening, and how we train at Jimmy's house, we don't really get to look at the road book because we usually finish our road books really late at night or possibly the next morning. So, when we're with Jimmy and training out here, we just throw the road book in the bike and we go. We don't really have time to mark it too seriously or, have a lot of notes, because that's how Jimmy marks his road books, and, it helps us for training. So I'm thinking,
so you felt it was an advantage for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I liked it as well. I know for a fact that there's other people that do the, looking around the course and stuff. Like for me, dude, just knowing where we're going to go, I just want to drive as fast as I can without knowing anything. So,
well, that was, Sean was saying that, like, at least it gives you the whole night off too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It gives you more time to relax.
Yeah, which is needed for sure.
Exactly, yeah.
So how's it been after? Everyone pumped? Obviously you're blowing up everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, for me, it's a race, and yeah, it's cool to win, but life goes on, and like you still have to get home and work on yourself or keep training, and yeah, people have been blowing me up and whatever, but I've been just doing a normal everyday thing, just like I was the last 5 years, and now with this freaking crazy coronavirus that's going on in the world today.
Yeah, not much going on right now.
Nothing is going on. There's you can't even go have fun anymore. So what are we supposed to do, Like, are we even going to race Dakar next year? We don't even know.
Dude, that what concerns me right now is, like, if you look at it, if they canceled the Olympics, technically, I mean, whatever, the 40 different countries that go to Dakar, the endemic might not be over in some other countries, or might not even started yet.
Exactly.
Well, tell us about that real quick, because right as that stuff was going down, as they were starting to lock down the borders and all that stuff, you went and raced the Sonora Rally.
Oh, yeah.
Which Casey
How was it?
Going to go do that also.
Yeah, we did the last race possibly in the world. It was definitely cool. They went to new locations. The road books were getting pretty good. The sand dunes, we didn't do too many sand dunes, so it was really cool to explore that part of Mexico, way down in Sinaloa area.
Oh, you didn't do a bunch of sand dunes?
We only had a day and a half.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought it said the last 2 days was supposed to be dunes.
Yeah, the last day was 100% dunes, but the second to last day was half dunes.
Interesting. And I did not know that. So was the rally good then, though? No problems on there?
Yeah, the rally was great. We started in Hermosillo, and dude, the first day was WRC mountain roads. It was so sick.
Oh, that is badass. That is awesome.
And then they had some rainstorm going on out there. So the second day had some cancellation in the beginning of the stage. But it was like WRC the first 2 days as well. And then the third day, we were in the desert. and then ended on the coast. And then like day 4 and 5 was just sandy tracks, or day 5 was all dunes. But
Was
day 4
navigation difficult or no?
The navigation on day 1 and 2 was not difficult because it was more or less just like main track,
roads.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the sand dunes were tricky. A lot of HP with, you know, just
What does
one
HP
cap
mean?
heading, you know.
Off piece. Did you guys have open waypoints or closed waypoints?
We had closed waypoints, but not very many of them.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, it's Sonora Rally, so it's a great beginner.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get people out there. You know, they don't want to put a rally to go out there and kill people and, you know, make them hate it.
Yeah, for sure.
So they try to really do their best and keep it pretty mellow for the most part. But the FIM guys were there, and hopefully in the future it'll be an FIM race.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Now, as far as getting back across the border, do you have any problems?
No, going home, it's pretty crazy. We were there, and we were right at the border, dude. We stayed on Friday night for the awards, you know, a little party.
Yep.
We were at the border, and I was with Sarah, dude. We just turned and went to Punta Cana and just rented a house, dude, for 7 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say you stayed down there for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we rented a house for 7 days, and then when it was time to come home, we got to the border, and they just asked us what we were doing down there, and dude, we were in the borderline for 20 minutes at Tijuana.
Well, oh yeah, that's nice.
I feel like you definitely gambled on that one though too, because like if it was like I waited 7 days and they completely shut it down, you're like, all right, well, I'm here for another month.
That's cool.
Dude, honestly, it's not that bad there. No stress in the world down there.
Right?
No virus scare, nothing, dude. It's relaxed and it's super nice. And now being home, I mean, it's cool to be home, but we can't do anything. Like, nothing's open. You can go to the desert and possibly have fun driving your side-by-sides or riding your dirt bikes, but I think they're going to try shutting that down soon, too.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully things start getting better. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but things are going to get way worse before they're better.
I agree. Well, dude, we appreciate you coming on. We just wanted to get some talk from you. Thank you so much, Ricky. Once again, congrats. And then I'll hit you up soon.
All right, Casey. Yeah, thank you guys. See you guys. Have fun. Enjoy. And we'll keep in touch.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys.
Later.
Well, for ourselves, I figured, dude, let's start breaking down Dakar. For myself, we'll bring Sean on here in a couple minutes. But I'd say if you guys want, we could start from the beginning and work our way up. Obviously, we flew over on December 31st and got over there on the 2nd. When we arrived, we had 1 day to basically get acclimated, just kind of get ourselves comfortable in the hotel. Showed up. Race cars basically were being built in the parking lot in the bivouac, I guess. The first bivouac is kind of in front of the hotels, so it makes it pretty easy. But, yeah, they finished the race cars.
Well, your first day you had the shakedown.
No. First day we showed up, the cars showed up, and then they had to build this first full day we were there. They were just putting the cars together. So this year, obviously, I had some tricks that Sean and I knew that I wanted to do for speed things, for mechanic stuff. So we spent the full day at the bivouac, just going over the race car, making sure that we had everything that we wanted in the car and how we wanted it in the car, and then where all the gauges wanted to go, everything as far as for the trip meters and the race computers. And then that night, we just hung out. And then the next day was when we went and did a shakedown. Shakedown is actually like 80 degrees, super nice. We went outside of town like 30 minutes into a super cool little place that basically they rent Can-Ams throughout the year and rent some quads. And we went out and actually met a bunch of the Can-Am dealers from the area and from local countries, and did some ride-alongs. And then we ended up doing a final adjustment. Simon, the Can-Am engineer, came out, and we ended up working on clutching until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Just what we got the car to make a little bit more power, and then we weren't happy with the clutch. So Simon and I ended up working on clutching, got that dialed in, and then we got back to the hotel super late. Next day was opening ceremonies on the 3rd. Yeah, that's right. So on the 3rd, we did, or was the 4th opening ceremonies?
Fourth,
Yeah,
I think,
that's
is
right.
opening ceremony,
That's right.
fifth
So
race
3rd,
day.
yeah, 2nd we got in, hung out at the bivouac. 3rd we did shakedown. 4th we did opening ceremonies, and we did opening.
So that was my first Dakar. I thought the opening ceremonies were pretty cool, but was there any difference between the way they ran them in Saudi versus Peru?
I think it was more organized in Saudi but I also think there's way less people. Peru, it was mayhem. Like,
Yeah, it was hectic at Peru. There was just thousands and thousands of people.
so obviously because it's new in Saudi, it's new. It'll be new to the area. I think by next year it'll probably be 2 times as big or 3 times as big. But, like in Peru, there's, hundreds of thousands of people. You couldn't even drive your car, and there's people trying to knock the fence over.
Well, I think that was one thing that was crazy that you had mentioned is, like, in Saudi before this, or I guess, when did they open up tourism? So basically,
It was
you weren't
last
allowed
year.
in the country.
It was like partway through 2019.
Yes.
They started to. Like, they started writing visas for people.
So that's what I noticed is, like, the people looking at these race cars, that they have never seen them in person before. So that must have been a wild experience.
Yeah, it was it was crazy. Yeah, like the thing is like everyone's super nice. People like have their opinions on the the religion and the the government side of it, and like honestly I don't play into that stuff as far as into other countries. We just went to race, and the people around the race were enthusiastic that we were there. They were pumped. We met a lot of people, and in all the areas that we went, we never had any conflict or issues. So I felt good on that aspect. And, like you're saying, opening ceremonies was the first time that for me was, if you want to be real, was the first time as an American. I was the first American to stand on the box in front of, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people from Saudi Arabia. And yeah, it was great, man. We had a cheering crowd. The complete military group that we met came down, and we're at the front row hooting and hollering. It was pretty cool experience to have those guys come.
Let's talk about that story real quick, because I thought that was even cool. Like, so you met these dudes randomly in the trip on December.
Yep.
Got their number,
Kept
have
contact.
friends of friends, and then when we got there a couple of days into it, they invited us to their little compound where they hang out and stay, and had us over for dinner. And, like, to be honest, that was the best meal, in my opinion, that we ate while we were
100%.
there.
Those guys, they killed it. Dude, they got the barbecue set up. They got the food. They got everything. They made it a great night. Then they played volleyball. Like, they totally bring this time. And Kyle knows he had to play volleyball with these. It's all total, like, gnarly, buff dudes.
It
like,
felt awkward. They wanted to play like Top Gun style volleyball without their shirts on, and I'm like, I'm over here. I'm like, dude, I'm out of weight or out of shape. I don't want to do this.
super good. But
I think they were really stoked just to hang out and see other Americans, because, like I said, there's not a lot of other Americans over in Saudi. So that was a pretty, I think, neat experience for both of us and them.
Yeah. So they went, like, and that, yes, I agree. And they're super nice guys, and they just want to hang out with everybody else. So, but after opening ceremonies, that was a night we did. Basically, we had a humongous drivers meeting. Like, there's so many competitors that the drivers meeting is insanely packed. Like, there's probably 20 or 20,000 people at the drivers meeting, because you got like driver, co-driver, and then you got like team manager, team engineer. And then you have, like, then the posses and all the other people that came for the start that wanted to be there. The media and the organization itself has, a lot of people involved. So
talk a little bit about tech, because you go through tech, like in Baja and races in the States, you go through tech, you get your car, you go back to your pit, keep on working. So talk a little bit about tech and Park for May.
So the way tech works is basically you have a time slot. You don't go before, you don't go after. You go at your time. There's penalties involved with everything. So time, you show up and you go through everything. You go through your complete car, all the restrictors, all the limitations, all the numbers. Everything is homologated. The chassis is homologated. So all the certification of your chassis has to be up to date. And the difference between racing in Dakar and in anywhere else in America is the fact that there was multiple racers that we knew that they didn't get their basically their driver's license. It's a FIA license. If you don't have it, you don't race. You can be there. You have your dirt bike there. You got everything ready. Your team. If you don't have your license, you go home. And they don't take that lightly. And over there, so you do once you get through tech. And everything's done, at that point, your car is ready to race. And what that means is you drive from tech line back over to basically opening ceremonies or the opening ceremony slot, and you're done. It's in Park for May, meaning you're not allowed to touch the race car until the race day starts. So luckily, crazy experience was day one. But basically for us, we put our car in Park for May, and that was it. It was ready to go. Everything they put in the car, everything they adjusted on the car, all the water, everything was ready to go. The crazy thing is there's no start line. There's no grand finale, like big start. So day one of the race, after we put the cars in Park for May, we went to bed, woke up the next morning. Okay, your start time is whatever it is, 7:30 in the morning. You go down.
That first liaison to the start was it's
like
far too.
200K. It was long. But the crazy thing is that different than any race that we do. So you walk down to your race car. You're so excited, and here you are. You get in your car, and you don't even put your helmet on. You just don't even have your suit on. You don't have your Hans device buckled up, and you go and you start the liaison, and then boom, you're now on a highway section for 3 hours. I think the first day was, which when we started, we got all comfortable in the car. Everything was good. Car started. Car was pulling out of town was all good. And we want to get down into it. 50K in, we're just cruising on the highway, and boom, an axle broke. And I was like, what the heck? This is crazy.
Front or
Rear. So boom, we pull over on the side of the road. And on those sections, on certain sections, the crew is allowed to help. There's a lot of rules that go into this, but the crews were allowed to help. So basically, boom, we had a mechanic pull up behind us, and we had an axle in the car, and we changed it. And at that point, that the mechanics were calling ahead to the big trucks were at the start of the race or start of the stage, and we're telling them, hey, Casey already lost an axle, make sure you get another one. We have by the way, in Dakar, there's no race radios at all, so we had no communication. So everything has to get relayed through them. At this point, drove another 40 kilometers, boom, lost another axle. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be gnarly. And then we don't even know what's going on. Have no way. I'm freaking out in the car. Now, day one, I'm ready to quit already because super frustrated. And obviously, I'm very passionate about what I want to do. I don't care. At this point, I don't care what people say anymore. I want to win. That's what we go for. I don't put all this time and effort training, eating good, riding bikes, going out to the desert for 30 days and trying to get myself to be better to go there and lose and
on day one.
Oh yeah. And that's what, and I'm trying to keep,
racing.
and I am trying to keep my cool, but dude, I've lost 2 axles, driving on the highway out with a broken axle, boom, lose my 3rd axle. I'm like, dude, this is it. Here we go. We're going into Dakar.
Haven't even made it to the dirt yet.
Literally, now I'm like, oh my God, so we drove 25 kilometers. Now I'm in 4-wheel drive. We never run the cars on 4-wheel drive on the highway. We always try to stay at the front diff. I don't want to put any load on the front axles. I'm very cautious with my car. I've done a lot of testing and development. Can-Am has an amazing machine. And for myself, I just know where we have, where I can make strengths and we have weaknesses. And for myself, I always try to do my best on the belt and on the front diff, things that I can control. So I run the car in 2-wheel drive on the highway. Here I am. I got a speed zone that I'm in. I can't speed, but I got to get the car. Now I'm in 4-wheel drive on the highway. Worst thing you could do. And now I'm driving. I got axles just swaying in the wind back there, just making all kinds of noise. And finally, we get to the bivouac or the big trucks, and we made the decision that something happened on the axles from last year and the testing we did, that the ride height and not having any travel, right? Because we're on the highway, the car's not going up and down, oiling the cage and the balls. Basically burned itself up. So we made the decision right then and there. Let's lower the car down. And for me, that was super upsetting because all the testing we did and everything we had dialed in was like at the settings we had. So it like totally was killing my mojo here on day one. And ended up running, crazy story. Day one, ended up running a super low tire pressure and had the car lowered down. And I was like, man, here we go. This is going to be a long race. We're going to get flat tires because the car's sitting too low. I'm already in the bump zone before I'm supposed to be in the bump zone. I've already lost 3 axles. Day hasn't even started yet. And we got to the start line of day one. Sean and I are like, dude, all right, we just got to make this happen. And Sean's been doing just.
We're going to call him, by the way?
Yeah, we are. Should we get him on for the whole thing?
Let's get him on here.
All right.
That way he could rebuttal any non-factual stuff over here that you may be
You going to call him?
Yeah, I'll
spitting
call him.
out here. Sometimes, Casey likes to exaggerate a little bit.
I'm just passionate. And I like a good story, so sometimes I gotta fudge the truth a little bit to make it.
Just got to keep you honest here.
What's up, man?
What's going on, Sean?
Sean, you're on the
Not much.
Where to Next Casey Currie podcast with myself, Aaron, and Kyle. And
What's going on?
we've been rapping about. We've been doing some discussion of stuff that happened before Dakar, and like we're at the start. We did the opening ceremonies. That was fun, and we started getting into. We didn't get to stage 1. We got to 3 broken axles. Casey's freaking out. We get to the start of the race, and they want to lower the race car down, which we already tested at the right height, and they wanted you to get involved because they feel that my truth sometimes goes the wrong way. So
Yeah. No, it's definitely. That first day was definitely the day where kind of everything was thrown in one bag, and having all those axles go, not only us but other people as well, was
that's
like,
right.
man.
How
This is really how this race
bad
is
was
gonna start.
Casey freaking out at that point when the third axle broke?
We felt the one go. And we're like, okay, maybe it was just a bad axle. So we keep driving, then another one goes. Okay, now that's not a coincidence anymore. And then the third one lets go, and we're at that point where, it's the first day of the race as well. So we're ready on edge. When you throw this into the mix, it was just we weren't happy campers for sure. It was just very, very stressful time. So especially going into the first day of a 12-day race. So it wasn't good.
Yeah, we definitely lost. But that first day, I was just getting into the first day. We were running a lower tire pressure, and we had a phenomenal day. No, that's where I feel that we set the bar though. Was like we went into day one, and we came out, and our teammates were having bad days, and just overall didn't push hard. And to me, I feel that that's when I was like, okay, all that crap that just happened behind us, and I feel that in the car, dude, we were meshing so well and everything was clicking. It was like, dude, this is what it's going to take. Obviously, the hard part, what people really don't understand is you can only push so hard when there's dust. And on day one, we started basically by order or car number. So it was all UTVs around us, but the dust was so bad in some of those canyons and valleys that no matter how hard you push, there's always somebody that's going to get clean air in a better position.
Well, even on that, so with the liaison, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not the expert, but in the liaison, they give you a block of time to get to the start of the race. So you didn't lose all of that time, fixing those axles and stuff. You didn't necessarily lose any time on your race time.
No, not at all.
Correct?
Yeah, no. So basically, you get it'll be 2 hours to drive. Whatever. It'll be 2 hours to drive.
They give you
50
plenty
miles.
of time.
Yeah,
to,
so we
to
had
get
time.
there.
We changed the axles. Even then, I think we ended up lowering the car down, and then we did. We got to the start, and we still had time to get out. Sean has to take a leak because he doesn't wear catheters. I don't know how that's even possible, but and then we still got fuel, and then even still had time to cool off and relax before the start of the rally.
Yeah, no, it definitely all those liaison section and all that stuff. Going into that first day, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think we were second in stage that day.
Yeah, you guys were or on the line. I don't know, but you guys finished second on that stage.
Yeah,
we were the 5th car off the line. We were
fifth.
Yep.
fifth car off the line, and then no, sixth car because it was 400.
Oh, that's
and then,
right. You're right. 4
and
5.
then yeah, I think we finished second that day. And like you said, I mean, we hardly pushed that day. I remember saying like, all right, start of the race, we had a couple issues at the beginning of the liaison. Let's just kind of gel and just see how this car is going to go, and let's just have a smooth, clean run. And when we got to the end and everyone's like, you guys got second, we're like, no way. Like, we were kind of like, are you serious? Like, we pushed, but we weren't like driving fast. We kind of were just trying to get into a rhythm of things. And for us to get like a second on the first day was a pretty good, like, achievement. Just be like, all right, well, we know where we kind of stand, and let's kind of keep pushing from here. So
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel the same way. Like, I think that first day is when it was like, this is it. We have everything it takes to be competitive at this race.
yeah, you kind of feel, play the field out and see where everybody's at. And I mean, not everybody, obviously, being such a long race, you don't win on the first stage. So just seeing what other people are doing and kind of where we sit was kind of more of just like a thing for us, just to be like, all right, we are competitive. We have the car that can do it. We know what we're doing. So let's kind of keep pushing from here on out.
Yep. And then that, like, even leading into the next couple of days, like, if you look at our results, like stage 2, we got 5th. But the crazy thing about the rally, in that people like are always like, oh man, you should be going for stage wins, is that, now going up the line second and all the UTVs around us, like, that's where it gets difficult, because on day 2 and a couple of the other days, like, people don't realize how bad the dust is for us. Like, when we were not in the sand dunes, the dust is so bad. It's like the only thing you do is drive, and it's like that other guy that's that started 10 cars behind us that had 2 big trucks ahead of him. Well, those 2 big trucks sprinted, and now they're faster than the side-by-sides, and now all of a sudden it's like clean air. Like, I will admit, the day that we got one flat tire, but the day that we got a flat tire, but we ended up driving to the pit stop in the middle and changing it, where we literally had those sand washes where that purple car was rolled.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We were pushing so hard and never got dust. And that was where, like, and I think that's where we got third or second for the day on day 7. But we ended up, like, we were in the best position ever. We were pushing hard and had literally no dust. And we weren't pushing in the way that, like, everyone else was in crazy dust. Like, it just happened to be a fantastic day for us. And, like, we put time on everybody by not risking anything.
And everybody has those days as well. I mean, it's all kind of based on, obviously, where you start the next day. And the big thing is what vehicle is ahead of you. I mean, if you have a T1 in front of you, okay, it's still bad. But when you have a stack of T4s, especially on days where it's very, like, those big days where we had those long straights where they could do 140 kilometers an hour, we're limited to 130. They're obviously going to beat you that day. So, going in the next day, it's like, man, we got quite a few guys of these big trucks that just make this wall of dust and throw the biggest rocks out. So,
well, let's touch on that for a sec, though, too, because explain where you finish. You don't stay within your category. So if you finish first or second in your category, you don't start in your category. That's overall. So
yeah, so it all depends on how you finish the stage before is how you start the following day, and then they'll mix all the vehicles in. The bikes and quads will always leave first in the morning. They'll leave before any car gets on the road. And then once all the car category starts, that's T1s, T4, side-by-sides, and all the other classes. How you finish that day before is how you start the next day. So
based
the
off
first
of your
day
time,
when you start is all by category. And then from then on out, you start getting mixed in between trucks and T1s and any other category they can think of. And it just makes it a big, kind of a big mess of just cars bombing through the desert. And you always want to try and be faster than the next guy so that you start ahead of him the next day.
The crazy
Doesn't matter what he's in.
Even the other thing is, like, just like you're saying, that, like, that's what so people don't understand is, like, dude, there was days on the start line, you're like lining up, you're going like, dude, we got two trucks ahead of us, like the trash trucks ahead of us, and you look behind, you're like, dude, we got 3 trash trucks, and you're like, you glance at Sean will look at the road book and be like, oh, dude, it's like graded dirt roads, and it's like they're gonna catch us, and like that is the worst feeling because you're like, all right, we know off the start it's fast, like because he can obviously analyze the road book real quick, and you know, Sean and I did a very good job of communicating to each other like where we wanted to kind of go fast or slow by him, like in that 10 minutes of having the road book is like just going through and be like, all right, there's rocks here, no rocks here, sand here, like and I would say that comes into play though when you look at like the freaking cars behind you. You're going like, dude, how did those two T1s end up behind us? And like, oh, on a day that in the sand dunes, if a T1's behind you, you're like, all right, when that guy finds us, we're following him. Like, because when a T1 catches you, you know, like a car, when a car catches you in the sand dunes, they normally are way faster than us. But if you follow, you can basically latch on.
Make up some time on that. Now, Sean, real quick, how many times have you raced a car?
I've raced it. I was actually thinking about that today. Did my first Dakar in 2015. So five total now, including this one. Yeah. And since 2014, 14 was my first year that I actually went and experienced a car, but I just went as a mechanic. And then 2015 is when I was asked to ride in a T4. And so then I did 2015, 16, 17, skipped 18, and then 19 in a T4, and then this year in the side-by-side. So, yeah.
How are those T4s, dude? Because they are massive trucks. Let's talk about those for a second, because every time I posted about one of the T4s, like, everyone loved how cool they looked, how fast they are. Like, they're crazy. So let's chat about that real quick. How did that category kind of start?
So how the category actually originated was when Dakar first used to run years and years ago. When it first started, all the trucks, the T6s and stuff, they would actually they would drive in the desert. When they used to be back in Africa, there was no paved roads, so the support vehicles and all the crews, they would actually have to drive through the desert to get to the next bivouac. It would be a different route than what the race course is, and so you had all these big 6x6s and stuff that ended up being like support vehicles, and slowly but surely they ended up making that like a category. And then over the years, the T4s evolved into what they are now, and they're full-blown race cars now. I mean, you get guys that, if you look at the Kamaz guys and DeRoy and all that stuff, those things are fully built to go 140 Ks through the desert and just bomb through the biggest rocks and bumps, and they look awesome. They're huge. Riding in the sand dunes is a crazy experience because all you see is the sky and then the ground, the sky and then the ground. It's super weird, cresting over stuff. But being such a big vehicle and so heavy, I think the minimum weight those trucks in Dakar has to weigh is 8.5 tons. So that's a ton of weight to be bouncing through the desert. And it's like you're in a washing machine pretty much going through there. You just see the in-car like footage and stuff, and you just get your insides just jarred all over the place. It's pretty wild.
So one of the craziest things that I think me and Aaron saw was at the end of stage 2, you guys, almost everybody started coming out of the wrong direction. So like we had cars coming from 2 different directions toward the finish, and one of those directions still had to go back out to get a checkpoint. And so you guys were having to turn right and head opposite race course. And like we're passing T4s in dust. Like we saw multiple moments where quads were going straight out of T4. And
yeah,
we're like,
is that the day we double flatted and then we ended
No, that was, you remember that day where we came through a valley and over like this mountain crest, and then you could see the finish line and the bivouac, because the bivouac was like 1 kilometer from and you could see the finish. And I was like, there's the finish, but we still had one more waypoint to catch. And it was super confusing that day. Remember, we were behind a T4, and it was like a valley.
That was like a third day or
where there
was
was a power line.
It was day 2.
Yeah.
Was it day 2?
Yeah. I thought we had a double flat that day, and we're down like 25 minutes.
But even on that note, you brought that up. From a spectator standpoint or the team standpoint, like there's not a lot of places where you can actually watch the race cars go by.
Yeah, that's tough.
They don't give you any GPS coordinate. Obviously, the guys get a road book, so that's how they're navigating. But even the teams don't get a map or anything that shows where the race course goes, and so you don't get to see the cars really go by. that particular day, the bivouac was like right near the finish line, so we were able to drive out to the finish and kind of watch the guys come through. But yeah, that was insane because so many people were lost, and you would think, well, why don't you just read your road book? But how hard is that, Sean, to, I guess, not follow the tracks that you can see on the road versus trusting what you're reading in the road book?
So that day, no matter what, whenever you get that sense of you're lost,
and Casey's gonna yell at you.
I tried, dude. I think I did pretty good this year. I had some
No,
moments.
you did.
But I thought I felt pretty good. I've been trying really hard to get better at my own attitude.
Yeah, how hard is it to not say that L word when you're next to him? We're like, no, we're somewhere in that area.
We never. Okay, I will give Sean this year.
It's just like a.
Yeah, but we only we turned around twice, and it was less than 30 seconds. I think we lost the whole rally.
Which way? Left? Is that a question mark at the end of that left?
Yeah. That's the hard thing for on a navigator's perspective, because at the end of the day, you're the guy there. You can't tell your driver, which way to go. I mean, that's all relying on you. So when you make that mistake, it literally just puts a pit in your stomach. You're like, hold on, and you almost just have to like pause, take a deep breath for a second, find out where you're at, and kind of track back just one or two notes and see kind of in your head, play it back in your head. Okay, I know for sure that was the correct turn at that marking. And that what makes a lot of navigators good is when you're lost is finding out where you made your mistake. And that was something that Jimmy Lewis like installed on us, was trying to put us in situations where you are going to get lost, but how to get out of it quickly. Because it's a matter of you can get lost for a minute or you can get lost for half an hour.
Yeah.
So that day where we came across, I think it was day 2, where you said like we saw everybody driving in different directions. And I don't know if it was something in the road book, but we missed our mark. And fortunately, we went up over a rise, and I think Casey, you spotted out because I went forward a couple notes.
The equipment.
Yes, and that's exactly what saved us. So all I did was go forward a few notes just to try and see what the terrain and stuff, and I saw construction work. So we're like, there has to be something construction going on. And in the distance, Casey, I think, spotted a crane, an excavator or something.
Yeah, we actually went through it backwards. Like the waypoint.
So we just beelined it to the construction. Fortunately, found the track, hit the waypoint. The waypoint binged, and then from there on, I was
basically like Pictionary notes in your. I think that looks like construction. Is that guy jackhammering? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the hard. That's where training comes in. Like, the hard part with everything going on is that people don't understand is that like. I don't care how fast you drive. If you get lost and lose 5 minutes on a day, you can't make that up. Sure, you can gain 30, 45 seconds, but like you're not going to just go out drive the top drivers in the world and just think you're going to lay down 10 minutes on the field. And that's where it's like you've got to like minimize those, and like that's where it comes into like like we obviously didn't have any big issues this year. I mean, it happens, but like when it does happen though, it's like, all right, what are we doing? How are we going to attack this? How far back are we going to go? How are we going to go back? Are we going to make sure that, are we going to try to go off piste? Are we going to try to stay on track? Like, how are we going to try to find the mark? Like all that. That's where communication with the co-driver, like I feel having that relationship to the point where like, obviously, when you're flared up, like, what do you do, right? It's how far back you're going to go and make those immediate decisions. And then, like, for Sean, it's like, and what works for me with Sean is that, look, whether it's right or wrong, make a decision, stick to it. When we get to that point, okay, we're going to reset again. But don't be like, okay, let's kind of, well, what's kind of? Does that mean we're not going, or does that mean we're going?
Yeah, definitely trying to be, like, affirmative on stuff and just making sure that you think it through thoroughly first and then make your decision and then proceed with it and try and see if it works out. If it doesn't, then you try again. You keep trying over and over. But yeah, just making those marks and trying to see where you're at all times is crucial. Definitely crucial in this game.
So out of all 12 days of racing, what was like the gnarliest day for you?
I mean, all in all, we definitely had good days. I think that the days where, do you remember that one time we were going, there was a wash that we were following, and I think I want to say it was after rest day or a little bit before that, but all of a sudden you see traffic. I think Chaleco was coming backwards or somebody, and there was like 2 UTVs coming backwards.
yes.
And that's the worst thing, is you're going down a wash, you think you're on your marks, and all of a sudden you see these cars go in the opposite direction.
And cars that are like competing for the overall with us.
Yeah, so initially your instant thought is we're lost. And because you're thinking, like, obviously everybody's turning around. And so those are the moments where you like have that pit again. You're like, dang, we're lost. We've got to try and find something. But I think that day, and then another day that was kind of, remember when Carlos Sainz and
the minis
Stefan Petterhansel came past us
and turned around.
And turned around right in front of us, because we started ahead of the cars that day, or it was some other section, and it was just all backwards. And so no, it was definitely it was difficult. I mean, for the most part though, I think the most stressful was the last 2 days. Just knowing what we had in store for us. It
makes me nervous thinking about it.
Yeah, we had everything to lose at that point. We're up ahead in the rally. We're first overall in our category, and it was just like, just going through my mind the whole time. Don't make a mistake.
Well, even
Don't mess
at that
this up.
point, from the media perspective, towards the last few days, as you guys were leading, not that they were totally biased against Americans or Can-Am, but or any Monster versus Red Bull guys, but the last few days, more and more media were just coming around and hammering you guys. How was that?
I see. For me, I was losing the last 2 days. Like
the last 2 days, you did not want to do it.
But I mean, I was to the point, like, see that, like you said, like having, like Sean handle everything on the car side as far as where we're going to go, how we're going to attack the day. And then obviously, like, for myself, like, I overanalyzed the car and how the settings, right? So we were, like, fine-tuning the clutch. And every single day we were, like, tinkering on the clutch. And, like, but I feel like that was making me sane, because I was not good. That media, because I don't know what it is, but the media is like, you're going to win the rally. And it's like, there's 600 miles of racing. 1,200 kilometers or 1,400 kilometers. You don't go to the Baja 500 and say, all right, today's your day. You're going to win it. It's like, dude, stop asking these questions. Like, oh, what are you going to do after you win? It's like, I don't even, dude, if I don't win, I'm going to go kill myself after how freaking hard you're on me. It's like, dude, it's gnarly.
Yeah, that was definitely, and I mean, like I said, for me, just making sure that at the end of the day, making sure everything's good and okay. And because if I were to be the one that, say we got lost on the last day or the day two, and it was like, if I was the one that like threw this away for everybody, it would just, I could never live it down. So there was so much stress, and just, I think on the last day where, I mean, we did those adjustments and going into, and I never told Casey until I think till we got back, was the final stage, and there was those 3 quick waypoints, and they were stacked up super close to one another, and I think we're pushing pretty hard to get to them because we had some dust ahead of us. So, but if we missed one and got to the finish, you can't then, once you cross the finish line of the stage, you can't go back.
And what's the penalty for
45 minutes?
Yeah.
And we had
so that would have thrown
lead.
it. Yeah. So it's just like those last 3. I didn't think I was saying too much. I was just staring at my notebook, the road book, the whole time, just hoping. I'm like, please hit everything. All I'm looking for is the number of the waypoint to hit on the GPS, and I'm like, and I think 2 of them were like back to back within like 500 meters or something like that. So I'm just like, please don't miss them.
The funny thing about that is the last day was the first and only day I feel that I could hear it in Sean's voice that he was nervous. And then it's funny because I hearing your fiance saying like that you were like up since like 2 a.m. texting her.
I don't know how you guys slept at all. Like I wasn't even racing, and I was like full stress mode. I'm like, dude, somebody should be out there like guarding the car, like any sabotage, like.
So
Like,
well,
jeez.
I will say. So I'll give you guys some insight. I hear like Casey Currie. The night before, I was in bed, and I was like, Sean, I need you to do me a favor, and I need you to take a shock pressure gauge, and I want you to personally go check the pressure. You're like, what? That's freaking ridiculous. I was like, dude, I need you to walk out there, and I need you personally. Well, I'll do the tires in the morning, or we'll do the tires in the morning, but I really, really need you to go. Because I know you're a mechanic, and I know you know how to read a gauge. I want you to go check the car yourself and literally
And
come
mind
back.
you, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night. Sorry, you're 10 or 11
It was
at night.
late, and literally comes back and go like, dude, front right corner had no air in it. And I was like, oh my God, this is. And I that point, like, obviously we didn't, like, whether it was sabotage or air leaked out or whatever happened, even though those shocks have never lost air since, whatever happened. And dude, after that, I was a mental case. Like, and then on top of that, so mind you guys, Sean is losing his mind because of, he's got to hit all these waypoints, and he knows that you can look at the road book beforehand, and we know that, oh shit, it's going to be a gnarly day. Like, there's certain waypoints you can't miss. And just like you said, the last 3 are the gnarly ones, get to the finish line. Halfway through the day, I think the day was only 150K, so short. Like, it was a sprint. Well,
Yeah.
in my mind, I was losing it. The suspension in the front end, for whatever reason, was super stiff. So Sean's got his own problems of being stressed out because of navigation, which I don't know about because I don't even know where we're going rather than what Sean tells me. And in my seat, I'm freaking out because I'm getting a ton of feedback in the front. Well, I don't know if it was from the day before the marathon day that something happened, or all of a sudden the last day the car was 10 times stiffer than it was the day before. And for whatever reason, I was like, in my mind, sleeping, I prepared everything that could break on that car. I know that Sean and I could fix. And I was like, all right, here's what's going to happen. I was like, oh, the only thing that is going to hurt me is a steering rack. I'm like, dude, we could pull if, with our, one of my teammates, which, we had teammate support, which we can get into that later. Dude, he pulls up behind me and he's right behind me. I'm like, we could pull trailing arms off, shocks off, front, all front arms off. We could fix everything except for that steering rack. That steering rack, I'm like, dude, the way it bolts in is just not a quick fix. And I was like, dude, that would be what. And then sure enough, in my mind, all night I'm sleeping going, all right, don't break steering rack. Don't break steering rack. And here we go. And I'm getting feedback going like, all right, if I'm feeling feedback, that means it's going all the way through the electric steering. And I mean, it's transmitting all that load into the Heims and into the rack. And I was like, Sean, get out of the car. I'm not stopping because like we're freaking winning this thing. Climb through the window and adjust the shocks. And he's like, "What?" I was like, "He's like, no way." And now looking at it, he has waypoints that he can't miss. To me, I'm like, "Fuck the waypoints. I need you to climb through the window of the car right now and adjust the shocks." And like the first, we had 2 speed zones we had 2 speed zones in the rally, which means when you have speed zone in special, it means, all right, you have to go at a certain speed. Like, you're allowed to race. You go to that point and you drive like 50 kilometers an hour for so long. Well, the first one, we were like debriefing about it, and it got to the point where it's too late. And then the second one, he finally climbed out of the car and was like, went out there and made it. I was like, and that was only like 10K from the finish. So it was like 5 miles. And the whole time he's going, dude, you got 5 miles left. It's like, we're never going to make it. Might as well throw this whole thing away. But I didn't know that. He told me that there was like some tricky waypoints. And, in the debrief the night before, they told us that there were some tricky waypoints. I didn't really know until Sean, but obviously now talking about it, it's like he had double going on because he's going like, I got to put the road book down, which means now the numbering is going to be, I got to go reevaluate all of our numbers to figure out where we're at to climb out the car and adjust it.
What about the little card too? So you have a card that gets stamped, right? Like as you go through certain checkpoints.
Oh, man.
Do you remember that day
Yeah.
when we changed the flat?
Yeah, we lost it. Oh, yeah.
So
where is it?
So tell Sean, what's the card? Your bingo, your poker.
Yeah. So that card is what the time controllers, when you leave the bivouac in the morning, they give you a card with your card number on it, and it gives you a time. It gives you a time of when you have to be at the start and when your start time is and everything. So what they use that for is then also within the stages, there's certain checkpoints, there's CP points they call them, that will be where they actually physically put a stamp on the card to make sure that you've gone through that checkpoint or whatever. So when you get to the end of the bivouac or the end of the stage and to the next bivouac the following day, you give them that card and you turn it in. So every day you get a new card. So that's how they keep time and your positioning and all that stuff. So there's a big penalty for if you lose that card.
Do you get a new one every day or?
Yeah, every day. So every morning when you leave the bivouac, you get a time card, and it has all your times throughout the day of when you should start and all that stuff. And then when you get to the finish that night, you turn it in at the bivouac that you get to. And so there is a time penalty if you lose that card. And so I believe it was one of the days, and it was super windy that day. I remember that. And
it was in the rocks.
Yeah, it was like lake beds, but it had these like lava rocks like scattered all over the place. So it was just like a war zone for flat tires. And so, and I didn't have I would always keep that note card in my road book. And so I get out to change a flat as soon as we jump back in. And I don't know how I saw it, but that day the card was orange. So I just see this thing like off the corner of my eye, like fly through the desert. And I'm like, hold on, and I start looking through my road book. I'm like, shit, I lost the card. I'm like, pin
My
it.
bingo card.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's windier in hell that day as well. So we're driving off to this thing and it's just flying through the wind is just taking it. We're like, it would have been so funny to see like if there was somebody out in the desert just watching us chase after this paper card, just bombing through the desert trying to catch it. But luckily we did. And then after that, we ended up putting a little pouch on the front of the dash where you put it in and every day zipped it up so that wouldn't happen again.
I was gonna say you should just super glue that thing to you. Like
I was pretty stressed that day because I mean obviously from like changing a flat, like you're going as fast as you can to jump back in, trying to get your seatbelt on and all that stuff, and then to realize that shit, this thing's gone, and we're just trying to find it and catch up to it, jump out, get it again. So we learned that one.
Oh, that was gnarly. Yeah, another one bringing back memories. But I would say another thing that we did, everybody broke at least one axle throughout the whole rally. And, like I feel that one of the reasons that, when you end up like where we did was the fact that like we literally changed an axle under 10 minutes. From the time the car stopped to the time the car went was under 10 minutes. And like, dude, we literally had the rhythm. We didn't even have to communicate. Both of us had everything where we wanted it. And he had a certain job, I had a certain job. And we literally busted an axle in under 8 minutes. And it's crazy because like you look at like some people take up to like 6 minutes on a tire change. And it's like, dude, we completely took the back of that car apart and put it back together in 8 minutes. And like at the end of the rally, those days, like Chaleco had axle. He lost 45 minutes on an axle.
Yeah, everybody else averaged like 45.
Yeah, nobody believed us as well when we came in that day, and with our times and everything, we're like, yeah, we had a broken. We have to change an axle. They're like, no, there's no way. I was like, no, we did. I promise you. And I mean, that was one of those things as well where you and I went through it, and I had a little. I would keep a tool bag that was underneath my seat, and it was just the tools that I knew like. If we had to change a belt or do an axle or anything like that, it was quick access. And so it's easy to get to. So as soon as we had that axle go, I knew exactly where everything was.
No, you got to keep all your tools in just a tool bag strapped in the back.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to change.
For the crew, I think that was a gnarly part because, like you said, you guys don't have any radios or communication, satcoms or anything. So for the crew, we're all just sitting there, and I'll give them that the Dakar app was pretty awesome as far as like when you guys would go through a checkpoint, you just keep hitting refresh on the app, and it was pretty quick and pretty accurate. I think there were a couple of days and especially towards the end where the app was kind of glitching a little bit, and we're like, dude, he's not moving. What the heck going on? But yeah, that was another thing for the crew is like, you're just sitting there staring at your phone, just hitting refresh all day long. All right, sweet. They made it through that checkpoint. Oh, it's cool. They made up some time. Oh, they lost a few minutes. Like, yeah, like I said, you don't really see the cars go by, and you're just, and sometimes you don't have service too.
Yeah,
so
last day, that felt like forever of hitting refresh so many different times. And like, I'm like, we're not even in the car. And like, I felt so stressed. I'm like, just finish. Like,
Yeah.
That
it's
last
definitely,
day was gnarly.
I mean, for you guys, I mean, obviously with you two chasing and all that stuff, how is it for you? I mean, I was just thinking, like, how's it for you guys, obviously being stressed out as well, following us going through the desert and kind of dealing with all the other stuff that Casey and I don't see.
Oh yeah, what was the dude? What was the day the car lost a tire? Or
we had two days or two different things. So yeah, the one where we were driving down the road, I was in the back seat, and a tire just goes flying past us the opposite direction. And then
I was looking out the window. Joe was driving. I was sitting shotgun, and I'm like, "Hey, did you guys see that?" And what? There was a tire just bouncing in the desert. I'm like, "Where the heck did that come from?" And so we get to the top of a hill, and there's this truck, like a Toyota truck, that had the front driver tire just came off. The lug nuts were loose or something.
Yeah, and he was just sitting on a rotor. Like, and it was brand new too.
Yeah, it was a brand new truck, and so we. We're like, dude, should we help him? And we had nothing to do. It was a long drive that day, and we were gonna beat the race cars back to the bivouac. So, I think that was a pretty cool experience. You know, we went out in the desert and grabbed the tire and brought it back, and the dudes were super grateful. They didn't speak English, but we're like, yeah, you need help, and they kind of like waved at us like, oh, we kind of got it, and so we kind of were watching and. You know, they couldn't really find the jack, and the jack kept falling down, and Joe and I were like, all right, we got this for you guys, and put their tire back on. And so hooked them up with some monster drinks, and they gave us some dates, and that was a pretty cool story that day.
Yeah. Then, so the other time I was thinking about was the first time that I thought we were going to have any kind of conflict there was when we saw a giant pack of camels on the side of the road. So we were full Americans, like, oh, we don't see camels everywhere. We stop, we go to take some photos of it, and like, then we see a dude in a truck like storming over to us, and we're like, oh great, we're in trouble. Like, we got too close. Like, so we start walking back to our truck, and like, he pulls up to us, and like, he doesn't speak English, and so we're like, oh, we're leaving. Like, so sorry, we're sorry. And like, he gets on the phone and calls his son, and like, his son speaks English, and he's like, oh, like my father, like, he wants to welcome you to our country. You take as many pictures as you want. And we're like, we read that.
Some camel milk.
Yeah, we read that situation completely the opposite direction. Like, so like, interacting with the locals there, like, we had nothing but good experiences on our trip.
Yeah, everyone was super nice.
Yeah, that's what I definitely think. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but going into, and I know Casey and you, Kyle, you guys went like 2 months before, but the whole like stereotype of, oh, you guys are going to Saudi Arabia, literally just like thrown out the window when we got there. It was nothing but like nice people, just the most awesome scenery. Everything was totally not what I had kind of thought it up to be and like expected it to be.
Agreed.
It was
I
night
think
and day difference.
I think the craziest thing, right? There was, I think, 2 times where they shut down for prayer. So we were at the mall getting some groceries and stuff once, and then we were gonna go get food, grocery shopper on rest day. And so like we were in the middle of grocery shopping, and they just came over the loudspeaker and like, you got 15 minutes, and then they shut down for an hour. So that was kind of like the culture shock.
That was when we went to go get those phone cards, and if you're like inside of the store, they like lock you in.
Yes. That is,
and then
true.
you gotta like be a part of it. It's pretty wild to see that.
You know, I guess another little story we could talk about is our McDonald's car accident.
Oh yeah.
we at one of the days after the race was over, or after the special was over, we had a long, not a long liaison, but like whatever, an hour and a half drive, and like, dude, 10 minutes before the end of the liaison was Mickey D's, And sure enough, we see all like our whole team and all these guys sitting there. We're like, oh, dude, we're for sure driving through. Then
we were joking because we're like, we got to get out of here before he shows up because he's going to be pissed if he sees that we went to McDonald's and didn't get him anything. So we were like on our way out and you pull in and we're like, oh, dang, we were red-handed. Caught red-handed right there.
Yeah. So we made the decision we're going to drive through. Then we filmed it. It was fun. Like we ordered drive through and like dude, every time I could eat McDonald's, dude, I'm not a McDonald's fan in America. Just don't eat it very often here. But as far as over there, dude, that's like the best tasting food I've ever had. And any opportunity to get some chicken McNuggets down, I'm gonna eat some chicken McNuggets.
It's just a taste of home, basically.
Oh, 100%. But we, so anyways, we drove through, and Sean and I pulled out, and we were gonna go. Basically, we pulled out to go get back on the race, like whatever the street, and like if somebody in awe basically pulled out in front of us at like 5 miles an hour and drove into the front of the Can-Am, just fully smoked the front of this truck. And the kid was like in such shock that we're like, oh, dude, this can turn into a nightmare, like total pain in the butt. And the kid drove off. Totally,
yeah,
he was in total shock.
He looked like he was like 15 years old too, not even, maybe even 14. And like maybe took his dad's truck to go get some chicken nuggets or something down the road. And yeah, he hits us, and Casey and I like look at each other like, did this really just happen? And as soon as I jump out to like see if, luckily it didn't do a thing to the Can-Am. I mean, it didn't bend nothing, didn't scratch nothing. It was perfectly fine. But the front of the guy's car, his bumper was falling off, everything. And
radiator was in the fan.
The thing was totaled.
Yeah,
he just took off down the road. I was like, well, I mean, there's not much we can do. We're not going to chase. And then, do you remember? It was that same day after it happened to us, and then when we got into town, there was a ton of traffic, and Pascal and the T4.
Yep, smoked the back of a car.
Yeah, smoked the back of a car, and then there was like police involved, and
Oof.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're in another country doing a rally. You still have to like abide by their traffic laws and stuff like that. So when stuff like that happens, like you have to assess it like as if it was something here, because you can actually get penalized big time from the race organization if you have like big accidents or anything like that. And if it's your fault or if you're speeding, they take it very seriously, because at the end of the day, they still want to respect the countries that they're in and be able to come back and race the following years and stuff like that. So, I mean, with our little incident, I mean, the guy just took off, so there's not much we could do about it, and we just kind of carried on with our day. But there definitely is times where the racers do make mistakes, and especially after long days where you've been driving all day long, racing and stuff, you're tired and stuff, and little things like that happen. But
one of the things I wanted to kind of bring up, and I guess this could be a sensitive subject, but the Dakar Experience. So, and I think this was new for this year, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, yeah.
The Dakar Experience.
They did like a test run of it last year where it was at the halfway mark you could come back in. So like if you had a bad stage 1 through 5, you could, if you didn't finish the stage, you had to wait till stage 6 and you could go again, but it's only like you're only counted for the half of it.
So they were breaking it down at the drivers' meeting the first day. So basically, if you had a bad day and it puts you out of the race, so now you're out of the race, and then you enter a class called the Dakar Experience, and that allows you to continue driving in the rally, but you're not competing.
So I think the actual reasoning for that experience class is for like the reasoning and the explanation we got was it was meant for like the guys that are just there to participate in the race. And, you know, they're there and all they want, they're not going to get the overall, right? I mean, and up until the UTV category, like in the auto category, the top 10 guys are basically crazy far ahead of the rest of the field. And it's for that, the goal with it was like, oh man, I had one bad day. And normally everybody knows, or if you don't know, in Dakar, one bad day and you're done. If you don't finish the stage, you go home. That's it. Race is over. So now they brought in this experience class, and the goal was that like, oh man, you're already 280th place. We'll let you start again. But
which originally I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. If I've spent all this money to get here, I have a bad day 1, and now I'm just out of the race, or you don't get a drive. Like, dude, that would kind of suck. So my first take, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then as the race kept going, you know, you're in the experience class and now you get to win a stage and you kind of get the glory, and then not to take anything away from those drivers that, you know, had a good day that day, in the experience class. But, I don't know, what was kind of your feeling about that?
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, from what we were seeing in that whole class and stuff. And I mean, I get it. I see why the organization does it. I mean, you see how much it costs to go and do a race like this, and you've already traveled halfway across the world. If you don't finish day one, it's nice for the guys to be able to restart. But that whole thing where and I think what happened was when it first, because this year was like kind of their first year of actually allowing you to start the day after you didn't finish, where they kind of didn't explain it very well to the public media on like what it entailed, on like, yeah, they can go and get a stage win. And because at the end of the day, they're already out, so they can push as hard as they want that day just to be able to get their name on top of the ranks, where guys that are still in the race, they're still thinking of the overall. They're still thinking like, okay, we got to save this car and all that stuff. So it kind of changes the mindset of the driver and stuff, of what you're doing if you're still in the race or out of the race. But I think towards the end of it, I mean, definitely in the middle where everybody started getting all these stage wins and stuff, and it was kind of brought to their attention like, listen, we're still the guys that are still in the race now. You're letting them, and I believe before they would still let them start ahead of us until like it was a couple days later where they're like, all right, if you're in the Dakar Experience class, doesn't matter where you finish, you're always going to start at the back. So,
which they ended up changing that though. They ended up letting them. It happened for like the first couple days, and then they ended up starting to put them in position.
Yeah, it was something I can't remember but they started mixing it up, and that's where everybody started getting mad about it. Was like, yeah, okay, I understand you're in this Dakar Experience class, but now all you're doing, if you're allowing them to start ahead of us, you're just making our race worse, because you're now putting another vehicle in front of us that creates more dust and all that stuff. So it wasn't like, I shouldn't say it wasn't fair, because I mean they made it for that reason, for the guys to try and continue on. But I think they just need to kind of fine tune on how the rules and regulations are going to be with that next year.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think they already are. From what I hear, they're trying to, you know, fix that. I mean, it sucks for us because we didn't get a stage win this year because of that. But you know, there's 2 days that we should have won the day. But
yeah,
you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And
that was one of the things, like talking about stage wins. I mean, I don't know how many times that I think I told you, I was like, dude, we don't need stage wins. And I mean, you look at it, without getting a single stage win, you can still win the overall.
Oh yeah.
That's what a lot of people don't like understand, that aren't too familiar with rally stuff, is like, it's the longevity of it. So as long as you have to be consistent. As long as you're consistent every day, by the end of the race, you get the big prize, not just the short day. Because I mean, you don't look back on like, oh, I won this stage or that stage. It's like, no, did you win the race or not? So
I think that
one
was
of those things where
it's hard though. Like that's one thing that bums me out. It's like, here's the deal. Like we could have gone to the last day and then whatever, some life happens and we broke and we ended up getting third overall. And it's like, then you get home and you're like, well, dude, all that we could have pushed hard all those days we practiced, you know, going for the overall and trained, you know, all the days that we basically strategized for the overall. If we didn't win the overall, it's like, dude, we just threw away our chance of, you know, there was multiple days where we could have won the overall and we didn't. We didn't push hard. We totally kept it cool. And, but you look at it, yes, you're absolutely right. You know, but I would say that it's hard because you're also getting people going like, dude, why aren't you trying to win? How come you're not winning? How come you're not going for stage win? It's like, dude, we have a 20-minute lead overall right now. What do you like? Stop. But it's like, you know, the people at home don't realize that. They go like, oh, Currie, you know, finished 5th or 7th or
yeah. There's a bunch of days in a row where it's like 7th, but you either like gained time on the lead, like you extended your overall,
Yeah.
but you're like day by day, you're like, dude, you're 7th. Come
That-
on, what are you
that's the-
doing?
well,
And it's
that's-
like,
Yeah, well, that's where, like, just so you say, like, we got 4 days in a row, we got 7th, but we gained time overall every day. But that's where people are like, oh, dude, you should have just done it. It's like, well, technically, the guy that was ahead of us by, or the guy that was in second place, he started ahead of us, and then we saw him get a flat tire, and then from there, we kept pushing. It's like, we know if he doesn't pass us back that we've gained a minimum of whatever it is, 30 seconds, a minute, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, and then it's like you put that in the back of your head. You're like, all right, as long as he doesn't pass back, we just gained 6 minutes on second. Or the days that Chaleco was ahead of us on the overall, it's like he have a bad day. All right, boom, we caught him. We know where we're at. Like, but obviously at home you don't see the strategy set. All you see is like, oh, you did. You guys got second, or third, or 7th. It's like, yeah, but
And
we
think,
know all these little things by just playing the game.
I think as the race went on too, I think I noticed that on your face a little bit more each day. Like you were frustrated, like you guys wanted to win a stage. But keeping that eye on the prize, like, yeah, like you said, you came in 7th or 6th or whatever you finished, and you still put time on the overall.
I would say that, like, also having, for myself, like, having Dave from Monster Energy there with me, like, I would say there are certain things that all kind of leveled myself, like having, to me, a big wig from Monster Energy being a part of the Dakar Rally is obviously something that, like, I feel like very grateful for the opportunity to have them with me. But then when I got into situations where that pressure was building, there was nights when he'd literally come and go, like, here's the deal. I'm not paying you to get a stage win. I don't give a crap if you win a stage. We're here to win the rally. And it's like, you would never get that if they weren't there, right? And I could have drove myself into the ground thinking, it's a mental game, and I could have drove myself into the ground thinking that. And it's like having those kind of words and, that those little chime in words helps, right? There was days that Andrew Short and Ricky would come up and basically, like, obviously, Sean's doing everything he can as a co-driver. I'm like the voice of the team, which sometimes I voice too much. And it's like, my whole thing is like, dude, there'd be days where, like, man, do we push hard? Do we not push? And it's like, day 5, we're winning the rally overall. And it's like,
I think it was stage 3. You were a minute and a half off of the stage win. And so, like, you came in, you were pissed. You're like,
we got a flat tire. We should have, Sean, that was the day we should have won the stage. We got a flat like 10K from the finish.
You came in, you're super pissed off because you're like, dude, I just threw away my stage win. That was my first stage win. And then we're like, dude, you're leading the overall now. And you're like, okay, then it wasn't that bad of a day. Yeah, you're just like, it was like, we're like, dude, you got to calm down for just a second, man. Like,
it's hard though. They're like, when you have to go to bat, like, my only way of explaining the situation we were in is like, imagine racing the Baja 500 and a race mile 350 at the last fuel stop. You have a 20-minute lead. Life is good. Everything, and they're going to ask you to pull your helmet off and do a quick 30-second interview. Hey, you're going to win this. It's like, if you did that to any driver that races trophy truck or class 1 or 6100, dude, they would totally lose their cool. Like, there's no possible way that they're going to sit there. And like that, we had to do that at the end of the day. It's like, we still have another 500 miles to go tomorrow, but they're going to sit there and ask us, how we're doing. Oh, you got this in the bag? No problem. Even though we have no idea where we're going tomorrow and it's all sand dunes and crazy terrain.
Yeah. Just like totally jinxing the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're sitting there and just like, no, come on.
Many jinxes that in my head. Yeah, definitely. I guess like another thing that people don't really know is like, we slept in basically a Sprinter van size motorhome with a bed on top of the cab and the double bunks in the back that are all singles. And
Casey likes it hot. I like it cold.
It was in the 30s at night. It was freezing. And, on the sleeping side, like, dude, when people what people don't realize, like, Kyle obviously does all my media and all the, but we and Sean rode in the car with me, but the thing is that we basically from 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night until we went to bed, there was no breaks, right? There was no bad days. And that's where people think, like in America, when you're like, oh man, I got frustrated, I just needed to cool off. Like, I feel like that's where, as a team, you have to really learn your place. Like for me, like I know that I can get hot-headed, right? I know that I can have a crappy attitude, and when I have a bad day, I just ruins everything. But now, like, dude, even if you get out of the car, it's not gonna get all frustrated and pissed off at Sean or pissed off at anybody, and then I have to go back and sleep in the same motorhome, and like I gotta go eat at the bivouac, and I gotta, we're gonna sit there in the motorhome and hang out together. It's like but I really feel like as a person that, dude, it makes you so much stronger to like go through those challenges and be like, dude, we literally slept in the crappiest motorhome. That yes, they unplug it and turn the heater off at like 2 a.m. It's like, well, from 3 a.m. till 6 until I got to get up, I'm just going to sit here absolutely freezing.
Well, so that was your first Dakar with an RV, right,
yeah.
Sean? So,
oh yeah, that was luxury for me. That was in heaven.
So the year before, I did a single night in a tent, and that was enough for me. I don't know how you do 2 weeks straight in a tent, like.
Yeah.
Well, even let's talk about the mechanics for a second too, because you said the mechanics, all the prima donna driver, co-driver, for the South Racing team, all those dudes had motorhomes. The mechanics, like those dudes are literally sleeping in a tent, in a hammock, on the floor in one of the chase trucks. Like those dudes, and granted, they're not getting that much sleep. They are literally thrashing on the cars all night long.
And that was like for me, because I've done it. I mean, I could say now that I've kind of done kind of little every part that is involved with Dakar, being a mechanic on the ground, and then being a mechanic in a T4, to then actually racing it in a vehicle. So I've kind of seen all the like perspectives of what is involved and what it entails. And definitely, like for us, it's. We this year we have our own work cut out for us, racing and stuff and making sure everything's all good. But I give it to the guys that are the ones wrenching all night long, because we think there's a couple times where we wake up in the morning and these guys are just like cleaning up from working all night
I felt
long.
like such an asshole. I'm like, God, can't you guys be quiet out there?
Well, so that brings up the original by Motul, the guys that are riding and mechanicking all by themselves, as well as trying to get some sleep. Those guys are gnarly.
I truly enjoyed what that class was about. So you want to give it a little breakdown real quick on what those dudes do?
So original by Motul is a motocross class where they have a tiny toolbox that's all the tools they have. They have to ride all the miles. They have to work on their bikes themselves and everything in between. So basically, they're a one-man crew the entire way through. And
they sleep in tents.
Yeah, and they sleep in tents. And
not comfortable.
They are gnarly. Like,
and we found out only having to shower in the bivouac like 1 or 2 times that there's no hot water in the bivouac.
Yeah, I thought that class was really cool. I don't think I'm man enough to ever try that.
Absolutely not.
Pretty neat story what those guys go through.
But now on the mechanic side, another twist to the race program for us was that my mechanic probably caught coronavirus.
Oh yeah,
and our mechanic and fully got 107 fever and ended up actually staying in the bivouac medical tent overnight or for 2 nights. And for 5 days of the rally, we ended up getting a substitute from basically another portion of the team to be our mechanic. So like the night strategy meetings basically went away for a couple nights due to that. Our crew chief was
that was nerve-wracking because I'm like, dude, he showed backup. I'm like, you need to stay away from Casey and Sean just for a little bit. Like, dude, I can't have them getting sick. Like,
the best story about that whole thing was, I remember the one morning when he was like, you could just tell he was like super sick when we got up that morning.
Dude.
And
Yes.
he had a beanie on, and he's just like, I got this rash. And he's like coughing and all this stuff. I'm like, and so he shows me, and the whole side of his face is just red. I'm like, man, I was like, something's wrong here. Like, that doesn't look good. Come to find out, he had a plastic bag over his pillow, and it was the ink from the bag.
No way.
Yeah.
Left it.
You
Yeah,
didn't
it
hear
was
that?
the ink on.
No, I thought it was a rash the whole time.
No. Because the one other mechanic ended up going to him later and you know how the Portuguese are, they mess with each other constantly. And so the one other mechanic goes up to him and takes a rag and just starts like wiping it, and he's like, how come your rash just like wipes away?
Yeah,
And he's like, you're kidding me. Because I mean, the whole time Pedro, he like wouldn't touch
Oh,
it.
I remember.
Like, he thought
I
legit
remember.
was a rash.
I never heard that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
gave himself a temporary tattoo.
Yeah, it was
On his
ink
face.
off of a bag. It was red
Oh,
ink.
that's awesome. I did not know that. I thought he had a gnarly rash.
No. So I started when I heard that, I was like, "You're kidding." So
Oh,
that kind of lifted his spirit once he knew that he was rash free and it was just like a cold or whatever it was. But he came right after that.
I have another good story. Sorry, man, one of the nights, actually the night we're going into the Riyadh at the halfway mark, we finished a special. We're all stoked that we're coming into the most beautiful city. We got pre-warned in the driver's meeting to look at the city because it's beautiful at night. And I was like, we start driving and we're getting like 10 Ks from town. And I'm like, dude, Sean, there's a black Suburban following
Dude, it was
us.
like it was like 100 Ks.
Oh, okay, yeah. What? And I felt like hours, but and to this day we have no idea. But we got followed. We did get followed by a black SUV with basically blackout windows, with no branding and no race anything on it, from whatever 100 Ks out of Riyadh all the way to us, cutting off racers at the finish to basically make sure we slid into the bivouac. Gnarliest experience ever.
I wasn't paying attention, but you were the one that told me, because we were driving, and so Casey goes, I think this guy's following me. And so I'm not thinking much of it. I'm like, oh, it's just a coincidence, because it's very long roads there.
Just wanted to ask for some directions, dude.
Slow down.
Asshole
Slow
Americans.
A picture. But yeah, so anyway, so like, I'm not thinking much of it. So I just tell Casey, I'm like, all right, well, if you think he's following, let's just speed up a bit and just kind of zigzag throughout the cars and just see what happens. Sure as shit, the guy does the exact same thing. Pulls behind, right next to, or like not next to us, but just kind of just off of our back bumper. And so we keep going. I'm like, all right, now I'm starting to like think like, all right, this guy is really following us. So now we're pulling like all these kinds of like maneuvers and stuff of just, and you're just thinking in your head, like, I mean, for all we know, the guy just either just wanted to see the car or whatever, but it was just a coincidence of going such a long distance. And I think the one time we even got an emergency lane and bombed through traffic.
Yes, we did.
And the guy did exactly everything we did.
Oof.
And the one time he actually pulled up next to us on the road, and as soon as I looked over, he slammed on the brakes and then got behind us. So at that point, we're like, all right, something's going on here. We're in the middle of Saudi Arabia with an American flag just flying on the side of the car. We're like, God, we can't be in any worse of a situation right now. So, yeah, we ended up all the way to the bivouac. I mean, every off-ramp we took, every exit, we would even take the exits late, going onto, like, other freeways just to see if it felt like we were in a movie almost, of just, like, a high-speed, like, chase, like, dodging through traffic and stuff. And as soon as we get to the bivouac, there's a line of cars, race cars going in to get, like, give them their time cards and everything. And we drove along the side and cut, I think, like 10 cars off. We're like, we got to get in here. And as soon as we pulled in, that SUV or whatever stopped, and we just went into the pit, and we never heard anything else of it. So it was wild.
Not comfortable.
Well, that was that reminded me about me and Aaron got put into timeout for 24 hours.
I didn't do it.
You were in it, the same car with us. But we,
Oh yeah.
so
There's rules and regulations for
everything.
single thing.
So for media, they give you a couple points on the race course where you can go and shoot photos and stuff. And it was probably like midway through, and we were like, oh, let's go shoot the start. And so I asked for the coordinates for the start, and they're like, oh, that's not part of your coordinates for the day. I'm like, oh, okay. So and we were told, like, oh yeah, if we give you the start coordinates, the teams can figure out the race course based on that. And we're like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. So we figured, all right, well, we'll just follow a race car to the start. So follow a race car to the start and waiting for you guys to go off the line. And about a minute before you guys take off, I get a text message from the media organization saying, like, what are you guys doing at the start right now? We told you that we're not giving you the start points. So we're like, well, we just followed a race car. He's like, you're not supposed to be there at all. you guys are in violation of the rules. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, we have photo evidence, and like they send me a photo of our media vehicle. I'm like, okay. And they're like, you are now restricted. You have to come straight to the bivouac. We are not giving you any points for the next 24 hours. And I'm like, I'm full freaking out because I'm like, I'm going to get Casey in trouble right now. Like, he's leading the race right now, and I am going to get him kicked out. Like, he's going to DNF because of me. I went full freak out mode, and it turned out to be okay. Like, they slapped us on the wrist, and they're like, you're not allowed to leave the bivouac for 24 hours. So, like,
We got put in detention.
yeah. But
That's the thing with this organization that I don't think a lot of people like know, especially here in the States, compared to like what the desert racing we do down in Baja and stuff like that. The rules of there's no outside assistance is very, very strict. I mean, only competitors can help each other within the stage. Obviously, at nighttime in the bivouac's different. You can have guys work on your vehicle, but like an instance like where you guys doing the media stuff, they don't like to give any information. That's why you don't see a lot of spectators. You don't see a lot of people out on course and everything. So at the end of the day, you're out there by yourself, and you have you and possibly a teammate that's willing to help you out to get through the stage. So there's zero outside assistance that's allowed, and you can actually get penalized for it.
And that's even gnarly too, is like we were talking about earlier, where the racers can get assistance. So if that day the start of the race is going kind of the opposite direction on where the next bivouac is, we'd hop on the road and start headed toward the bivouac. Well, that they call that, I think, the common route or something like that.
Yep.
So the race cars, if they are not on the same route as the teams and stuff, you're not allowed to get assistance. So say on that first day, you guys had the broken axles. If that wasn't, luckily that was a common route and we were all heading the same direction. But if that was not, like, you guys would have been totally screwed.
Yeah. And that's how with us, with this organization, you'd always see on, especially long days, long liaisons and stuff, you don't realize that, okay, yeah, you're just on the liaison, you're just driving, but you're putting fatigue and stress on a race car that you're trying to save and not put as many miles or kilometers on it as much as possible. So the liaisons can actually kill you as well sometimes. I mean, so you'll always get what we would do is by the end of the common route. So say there's like a Y at a junction where the race cars had to go one way to the start and you guys had to go another way. They would always set up like a pit. So our crew, our mechanics would be there, and we'd do like one final check. All right, double check tire pressures, change the belt, put a new belt on. If there's any sort of issues that we've accumulated on the liaison, let's diagnose it right then and there before we actually go into the start of the stage. And yeah, saying that morning, I mean, we're extremely lucky that, because if we had those three axles, I mean, we don't even have enough spares on the car to change all three of them. So, and some days you get lucky where you have like a long period of time on a common route where you could have like a couple hundred Ks, or sometimes you have zero. I mean, the days where you leave from the bivouac and you end at the same bivouac, there's no assistance before you get to the start of the race. So it definitely makes it difficult sometimes for what can happen on your car, and then you're relying on yourself to make those changes.
On what day did it just feel like Groundhog's Day? Like, so in 13 days you race for 12, and in the middle you had a day off. So like the same thing every day, 2 weeks. Basically,
I felt that in just like writing articles. I'm like, I'm just saying the same thing. Like, and same thing, like trying to interview Casey. Like, it was a good day. There was dirt, and we finished. There's just like, it felt like that was on repeat. But
I feel that I don't know this year. But I mean, obviously I'm new, but I'm not new. But I'm like Sean coming from like in the like obviously having to rough it more, going from tents. Like, I feel like we had it pretty comfortable. Like, we had it pretty spot on. We showed up. Our motorhome was dialed in. We had everything we needed. Like, besides, next year I'm shipping over my own generator, so that way my own generator can run the whole time. But for us, like, dude, it was pretty, like, every single day I mean, we pretty much ate the same thing every day. We drank the same amount of fluids every single day.
Well, you didn't even eat the bivouac food every day.
No, I only ate the bivouac food like 4 times.
Not gonna lie, the bivouac food kind of sucked.
Oh,
Dude,
God.
it was better than Peru.
Yeah.
No, nope.
You don't-
I don't know.
I don't.
I
Think
felt
so.
it was better than Peru.
Dude, the night you guys went and ate fish,
I didn't eat fish.
Oh yeah.
Sean did. You didn't eat that night.
Yeah, I did.
It was
I did.
No, one
gnarly.
night I missed out on food completely. I showed up like 5 minutes after they stopped serving. I'm like, I thought this went 24/7.
Yeah.
Basically, Ricky
That's-
would put it up on social media of what was bivouac food, and we'd say, "Nope."
And he would always carry his mustard that he had with him. His own
And
hot
hot
sauce.
ball
sauce,
of mustard.
Tabasco.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I've learned just over the years that I've done Dakars and all that stuff is, I mean, you do get some nights where it's like, all right, this is actually pretty good, but majority of the time it's not. We're just I would assume for like the people that like the locals, that's probably like awesome food. But for us, I mean, our palates are different and all that stuff. For us, we're just like,
That's what
We
kind of
need
made me
cheeseburger,
sad. There
right?
was no alcohol and shitty food, and I still
Ah,
didn't lose
dude.
weight while I was gone. I don't
yeah,
know
you
what
know,
happened.
all I wanted to do was just spray a bottle of champagne at the end of the rally, but there's nothing. I was so mad. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, we never. Yeah, that is funny. We never got to do that. We didn't. The crazy thing, and that's another whole thing about like, celebrating. We finished. We did podium. We did the whole podium thing. Got back.
Did your interviews?
Did our interviews. Right then and there, no hotels. Changed in our motorhome. Made sure we had everything. Loaded everything we had in a bus, and right then and there went to the airport. Well, like a 2-hour drive to the airport. Sat there for 2 or 3 hours at the airport, and then boom, we were on a flight, and it was like on a flight. From next thing layover, boom, we're home, and it's like
Then went straight to Super
Went
Bowl.
straight to
yeah,
Super
straight to, yeah. But we had there was like no hotel, no.
Feels like last Supercross season.
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
Yeah,
So sad.
there was no like enjoying the moment. Like it never soaked in. It was like just hammer down, go. Pretty
Yeah, it
wild.
was
Like
definitely one after the next.
yeah. So, but no, overall, man, the experience for me it's incredible. Obviously, it's only my second time, and I feel very blessed to be able to win it in the second time. But I feel that like one thing that people don't realize is how much time and effort and discussions and things that go into all those little tiny small things. We had a lot of things that could have taken us out of the race, but I say that like there's a lot of strategy, a lot of things that you and I do in the car beforehand, during, and even during testing that in certain situations, this is our protocol. This is what we're going to do. And I feel that by doing everything that we said we were going to do and discuss the way things, having the discussions at the right times, I feel like leading into the future for racing more of these events is like only going to get easier to be able to be competitive. I feel like getting that win out of the way, and now that pressure will never come back the same. It's always going to it'll be a different type of pressure, but it'll never be those jitters of being like the first American. Oh man, the first time I'm ever going to win, the first time Sean's ever going to win. Like there are so many firsts that it's like the whole time you're going like, oh, it's going to end like 5 miles from the finish. The car's going to blow up and it is what it is. But now it's like all that being done and said, it's like, it's only going to make the next one easier.
Well, I guess one of the things. Sorry, Sean. One of the things I was going to say is like, I think it's kind of cool. Obviously, you're not the first American to ever go over there and race. There's been plenty of Americans that have gone and raced it, but I'd say the last couple of years of you doing it, and a lot more people in the side by side, community have more interest in wanting to go. What would you say to them? Like, to me, it's just like you can't really wrap your head around it until you go and experience it. But I don't know. What would your advice to those rookies that want to go try it?
I would say don't show up to the car. You can go first, Sean.
I mean, when you look at, I've done my Dakars in the past, and back in when I first did them, like you said, there were a couple Americans, and these last 2 years and I've always said, like I wish more Americans. You always saw Robbie Gordon and guys like that come over and compete, and they made a name for themselves. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's like you always wanted those more and more Americans to show up, because at the end of the day, America's not really involved in rally as like what they are in their other sports. And now it's within the past 2 years, and especially now after this year, I've spoken to so many people that are so interested in going over and competing and being a part of the rally and stuff, which is awesome to see. I mean, if we can get a huge field of Americans, it would be super cool to have. But saying that, for the guys that are like the first comers in and it's their first time, don't put your expectations too high. You're not going to go over there your first year and light the world on fire. I mean, don't get me wrong, it could happen, but it's a huge learning curve, and you have to really know and kind of like respect the rally for what it is, and learn about it and everything before you can really be super competitive and know exactly what you're doing. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. I think there's a lot of things. There's just a lot of unknowns that just like you're saying. I absolutely agree that I feel that there's an opportunity to go there and be successful the first year, but I also feel that there's a lot of learning that on the average there's mistakes that are gonna be made, but because you just don't know. And I was there, but I would say the best thing to do is go do a rally school. Go down to Sonora Rally. I think the Sonora Rally is great. Obviously, we didn't get to do it this year just because of the whole debacle going on right now. But for myself, I feel that there's a lot of opportunities in America now, like Jimmy Lewis, him training. There's a couple other people that do training. And really, just hit anyone up. There's road books out there. Like, just go and look at a road book and see if it's something you want to do. Because that's what I always get. Like, oh, dude, I'm a radical co-driver in score series, and it's like, okay, that gives me no indication that you're going to be a rally co-driver. It's like, even if you could change a tire quick or read a GPS, it's like both those things aren't as crucial as you not getting that car lost.
Yeah. Well, I think Eve even asked me like, oh, you want to go do some road books? And like, it sounds fun if it's just purely for fun, but in a competitive scenario, like, dude, the road book is all the abbreviations and stuff is French, and so like, I don't know.
Now and I feel like I feel that they changed the road book this year from the years past. So like in the years past, not saying Sean was in that doing anything, but in the years past, like if there was something in French, you could write on it like in English, like all right, whatever it is, triple caution. What the signs are, but if in American you can say all right, triple caution. When there is triple caution, you could write that out. Well, now that you're getting it 15 minutes beforehand, you can't. So Sean had to memorize every single thing in French. There was
you had to memorize all the symbols.
That's right. There's
a ton of them.
Oh, dude, it's gnarly.
I think this year's though, for as a navigator and knowing that now this year, obviously the whole color coordinating thing, and I see what the organization is trying to do. They're trying to make it very fair, and they're trying to take away the possibility of map men and guys that can go out and kind of assess what they're going to be looking at the next day. Of them now telling us, all right, we're going to pre-color your books. We're going to not allow you to write additional. You can make change. You can write stuff in your book, but you're not allowed to go in and add notes. So you can't, because then they know, okay, how did you know that at this turn there wasn't a cap heading on this note, but you added a cap heading, like that type of stuff. And I think for us, which was kind of a cool thing, was them giving us I think there were 6 stages this year where they would give it to us 15 minutes before the race. And going into the rally, and when we did it in Morocco was the first time that we experienced it. I was thinking like, man, I'm not going to be able to study it the night before. But once you understand the road book and you know what you're looking at, getting it 15 minutes before is a lot less stressful because you're not looking at it the night before. assessing through everything, making all the modifications, where now the organization does everything for you. And so when you get to the line, you're like, all right, well, here we go. Instead of like sleeping on it the night before, like running it through your head of what are we going to do? What are we going to get into? So I actually prefer getting the road book the day before. I think it was a lot less stressful, even though it sounds like it would be more stressful, but at the end of the day, I preferred it.
Well, that's what we had talked to Ricky a little bit earlier before we called you, but even while we were over there, I had talked to one of the other riders and kind of asked him that too. And, he had kind of echoed that after dinner or whatever, they would spend hours going over the road book and looking at maps and going over it. So he was stoked because they were like, man, we don't have to deal with all that. And now you're trying to remember everything. And then, the stress of trying to remember everything you just went over for a couple hours, or sometimes it's late, you don't get in late, or you didn't finish up late. And so, now you're going to bed at, 10 or 11. The bike dudes get up at it was like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Early.
super late.
Yeah.
And that was for us. I mean, like with Kellen, I mean, I would always go get with Kellen, and the two of us would sit down and do our road books together, because we would talk about it and just kind of go through everything. And I mean, a couple of the nights, the modifications that the organization gives you, no joke, you'd spend like 2 hours to get your road book prepared for the next day. And so when you don't get them, you can relax and just kind of work on make sure the car's right and just kind of get some sleep. But yeah, the nights where you got to do it the day before, it's redoing stuff. And then there was a couple times where they would make a modification, and then you'd also at 8:00 every night there would be a driver's briefing to kind of go over the following day's stage, and they would show all the modifications, and you're thinking to yourself, man, am I making this modification right? Like sometimes it would get a little confusing on what the organization wants you to modify and stuff. So it was definitely a lot better in the mornings. I preferred it. So
Yeah, no, it's definitely a wild experience. Well, dude, I honestly think we've been chatting about Dakar. Dude, Sean, thank you so much for joining us and telling stories, man. We really appreciate it.
What are you doing during coronavirus out there in Vegas?
Just hanging out, enjoying the new Can-Am, and just riding around the desert, trying to keep myself at ease and peace of mind. So that's all, just working on stuff here and there. And
speaking of where next, I talked to Sean yesterday and tell him real quick about that ride. We got to do that at some point this summer, leaving from Sean's house to Dumont and back.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What is
awesome,
it, like 100 miles each way?
Yeah, we did the other day from my house. Yeah, there and back was just over 200.
Dude.
But I mean, then obviously like messing around at Dumont and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. I was impressed with the ride. It was rad to be able to do. I think there was like 9 cars that we all got together and did it.
Jot it down.
We
Put
had
it on
some
the list.
fuel out there.
That'd be a fun ride.
Yeah.
That's
I've never.
awesome.
So it was definitely cool.
I'm definitely ready for some UTV rides. So, well, dude, we appreciate it once again. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, and thanks for trusting me for all this stuff and kind of getting me to sit next to you.
It's been a journey,
pleasure.
Dude. Dude, the risk. It's definitely been all worth the reward. So lots of opportunity ahead, and the future's bright. So we'll hopefully get through coronavirus so we can get back to training and having some fun and pushing forward for 2021. So,
yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you, boss.
All right, thank you guys.
Well, dude, Dakar was truly an amazing experience. So, but I honestly, you guys, anybody out there has any questions, dude, let us know, man. I'm all about it. Now that it's over and we can tell stories and talk about it, it's really hard to do this on a video that to put all those stories out there. And I feel that I'm still missing a bunch. But you guys got any questions, dude? I'm opening up. I want Dakar to grow. I love Dakar. For myself, I like the challenge of driving fast with the unknowns of no pre-running. So it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how big your pre-runner is, you're not going to get to use any of it. So it's going to come down to ability, co-driver, and car. So love it all. Dude, thank you guys. Aaron, Kyle, thank you guys for joining. And episode 13. Where to next? We're gonna be wrapping up. We're gonna do way more. We're gonna keep you guys informed. We got a lot of great things coming for it. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys soon.